In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, on the planet Kaldor, there lived a man who was known to the stars as the last of the great blacksmiths. His name was Elian, and his craft had once been the backbone of civilizations. But now, his forge lay silent, the anvil cold, and the heat of the flames only flickering faintly in the heart of his small workshop. The galaxy had long since moved on to more advanced technologies, where weapons of war were no longer forged with the hammer and anvil, but with lasers and nanoforges. Yet Elian, stubborn and proud, held on to the ancient ways, the way of his ancestors, the art of true craftsmanship. Elian's shields were legendary, forged in the fires of the most intense furnaces, and tempered with the tears of stars. They were said to be impenetrable, capable of withstanding the most violent of attacks, from energy blasts to even the raw force of a supernova. Once, kings and generals had sought his shields, paying fortunes in exchange for the protection they offered. But now, Elian worked in solitude, his only companions the ashes of a bygone era. He had given up hope of seeing anyone come to his forge. His name had become a legend, but legends fade, and even the mightiest of heroes eventually become forgotten. It was in this quiet, desolate place that she arrived, an unexpected visitor from a far-off world. Her name was Lyra, a warrior from the outer colonies, where the ancient art of combat was still practiced. She had heard the stories of Elian's legendary shields, tales whispered among the stars of their indestructibility. And though she had never seen one with her own eyes, she believed in their power. Her mission was clear. She needed one of Elian's shields. There was an empire at war, and her people needed every advantage they could get. The shield was the key to their survival. When Lyra first arrived at Elian's forge, the sun had long set, and the sky above was filled with the swirling hues of distant nebulae. The air was thick with the scent of burnt metal, the remnants of countless weapons forged over the years. Elian, hunched over his workbench, did not notice the woman until she cleared her throat. "Are you Elian?" she asked, her voice steady and unwavering. The old blacksmith lifted his head, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of the woman standing before him. She was clad in a battle-worn suit of armor, her hair tied back in a braid that fell down her back. But it was her eyes that caught Elian's attention, eyes filled with determination and a fire that had not been seen in years. It was the fire of someone who would not give up, someone who would not accept defeat. "I am," Elian replied, his voice rough and gravelly. "But you have come too late. The age of shields has passed." Lyra did not flinch. She stepped forward, her boots echoing in the silence of the forge. "I've heard of your shields, old man, and I believe they still have a purpose." Elian chuckled bitterly. "Purpose? What purpose do shields have in a galaxy where weapons are fired from the other side of the universe? You think a shield can stand against energy beams that can obliterate entire fleets?" "I think," Lyra said, her voice unwavering, "that the right shield can change the course of a battle." The old blacksmith's eyes softened as he looked at her. He had seen many warriors in his time, men and women alike, all seeking his craft for glory, for fame, for power. But there was something different about this one. There was no greed in her eyes, no thirst for personal gain. She was a warrior, yes, but she was also a protector, fighting for something greater than herself. Something that Elian had long forgotten, the belief in the power of defense, the power to protect. "What makes you think I'll forge you a shield?" he asked, his voice tinged with both curiosity and skepticism. Lyra's gaze met his unflinching. "Because you're the last of your kind, and because you know what it means to protect." Elian was silent for a long moment, his hands still resting on his workbench. He looked at the tools scattered around him, the remnants of shields and weapons that had once been part of a greater whole. And then, for the first time in years, he felt the spark of inspiration ignite deep within him. "Very well," he said, standing up and walking to the back of the forge. "But if you want one of my shields, you'll have to prove you're worthy of it." Lyra nodded. "I've fought in battles before. I'll prove myself." Elian smiled faintly, the firelight flickering in his eyes. "It's not the battle I'm concerned with. It's your heart. You'll need to prove that, too." Over the next few days, Lyra stayed at the forge, working alongside Elian, learning the old ways of shield making. She watched as the blacksmith painstakingly shaped the metal, using techniques that had been passed down through generations. She learned to shape the metal with care, to infuse it with the heat of the forge and the spirit of the warrior. Each strike of the hammer brought the shield closer to perfection, but it was not just the physical process that mattered. Elian taught her the deeper lessons of the craft, the soul of the shield, the essence of what it meant to protect. By the end of the week, the shield was complete. It was unlike anything Lyra had ever seen, a masterpiece of craftsmanship, forged in fire and tempered with the strength of Elian's will. The shield was large, but light, its surface gleaming with an otherworldly glow. It was designed to absorb and reflect energy, to deflect even the most powerful of attacks. But it was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of protection, of the bond between the warrior and those she fought for. When Lyra held the shield for the first time, she felt a rush of power and responsibility. She knew that this was more than just a tool. It was a part of her now, a piece of herself. And she knew that with it, she could protect her people. Elian watched her with a quiet pride. "You've earned it, Lyra. But remember, a shield is only as strong as the person who wields it." Lyra nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "I won't forget." And with that, she left Elian's forge, the shield in her hand, and her heart full of purpose. The galaxy was vast, and the battles ahead would be difficult. But with the legendary shield by her side, Lyra knew she had the strength to face whatever challenges lay in wait. Years passed, and Lyra's name became known across the stars. She became a protector of her people, her shield a symbol of hope and resilience. And though Elian had long since returned to his forge in the quiet solitude of his workshop, he knew that his work had not been in vain. He had passed on his craft, and in doing so, had helped forge the future. In the end, Elian's legacy lived on, not just in the shields he had created, but in the warriors who wielded them, who fought not for power, but for the protection of those they loved. And though the age of great blacksmiths had passed, their art would never be forgotten.